everyone, today by request I'm going to be taking you through how to make this braid, which is called the 3-coloured snake belly. And I did make a couple of mistakes making this video, but instead of editing them out I thought I would keep them in there, and hopefully that means you won't make the same ones. So what you'll need is 3 colours of paracord. One colour will be longer than the rest, but I will take you through all of that in the materials. So let's go! I'm going to put the exact calculation for measuring in the description below, but you'll need 3 colours. Colour 1 will be your longest colour, and that is going to attach both ends of your buckles. And colour 2 and 3 are going to be the same length as each other. You're also going to need your buckle, your D-ring, as well as scissors, ruler, lighter and pliers. You also want to add 1 inch to your measurement of your pet's neck, so if you're aiming to make a 10-inch collar, then you want to make this 11 inches long just to account for the thickness. If you've watched any of my other videos, you'll know that I show how to set up a double lark's head knot setup in every one of my videos. I also have a separate video showing you how to set this up a bit slower with shorter cord if you need that. I'm not going to talk through all of this because I do tend to drag on a little bit, but I will show you the whole setup for you to follow along. Feel free to slow the playback speed, rewatch, do whatever you want. At the end of the day, I'm not going to know. Ooh, what I will say here before I disappear is keep that loop that you've just created loose, because you're going to use it at the end to tuck your strands away. So don't tighten that first loop that you've made too much. I am just going to cut in here to just remind everyone that you need to add 1 inch to the length of your collar. So if I'm making a 10-inch collar, I'll add 1 inch to make this 11 inches long. And you want to make sure that you're measuring that from the base of one end of the clip to the end of the other. So where your clips join together, that'll be where you want to measure. Okay, so you can see that I've taped this buckle down. This is just to keep it sturdy for the video. You don't have to do that at all. And I'm going to take my other two colours, and I found the centre point of both of these. What you want to do at this point is decide which order you want your colours to go in. So I want grey, blue, pink. If I wanted pink then blue, I would just flip them over so that pink is on top. And what I'll do now is just pop these under those two centre strands there. And I'm going to use my grey strands to tie it all in. So I'm just going to take this grey strand and I'm going to put it over those three strands there. And then I'm going to pass it under those same three strands and back through. Don't worry about this being too loose at this point because we'll go back and tighten it in a minute. You're just going to do the same exact thing on the left side, so I'm going to take my grey strand, pop it over those three, and then I'm going to double back underneath and up through that loop that I've created. This is where you want to then push those strands up and just tighten them as much as possible so there's not a big gap. And it can take some time, so just keep working on it until you're happy. Next, I'm going to take my blue strands and I'm just going to repeat what I did. Now there is a second step to this, but we're just going to repeat that first step again. So I'm going to take my blue strand, I'm going to take it over these two strands now, double back underneath, back through that loop I've created, and we're not going to tighten this yet. We need to leave it there for the step 2 that I was talking about. Just do the same on your right side, over the two strands, underneath and through. Now we're going to take our top strands, or our grey strands again, we're actually going to cross them over and put them through that loop. So I'm going to take the right strand, cross it over into the left loop, and if you're worried about kind of where the strands go, it doesn't really matter, but it will go over the pink strand, just so you're not going to get tangled. Pop that through, and then you're going to do the same with the left strand. So we're going to grab our left grey strand through the loop, and then we're just going to pull everything to tighten. And this is where I made my first mistake, which is I keep pulling too tightly. I have made this before, and for some reason I keep pulling too tightly. Don't worry about that, because step 2 covers the little gap that you leave. And now I'm just going to repeat what I just did with the blue strand with my pink. Again, and mistake 2, I keep trying to tighten these. You don't tighten these just yet because you need to cross over your top strand first. So I've made my loops. Now I'm going to take my top strand, my blue strand now, and we're going to do the same that we did before. We're just going to cross it over, pop them through the loop, and then we'll tighten everything up. But crossing over at this point does cover that little gap that would have been left in step 1, so don't worry about pulling everything too tight to begin with. Step 2 will fix any little errors. I think I spent more time tightening this than I should have. Now I'm going to take my next strand, we're back to grey, and I'm just going to repeat what I did. I'm going to take it over those two strands, create that loop. Again, don't tighten them. And then I'm going to take my pink strands, I'm going to cross them over through the loops, and then I'll just be able to tighten everything up again. You can also do this with 2 colours, you don't need 3 colours, but I just like 3. Yeah, and I put this note in here because it does physically fight. It took me ages to tighten those, it will fight you. So you can see that gap there, and that is going to be hidden when I cross those grey strands over in my next step. But right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to head off, finish this collar and come back to finish. Okay, so I have now finished braiding everything. And I've done step 1 with my grey strands, but I've not crossed them over yet. So what I'm going to do is pop them through this gap here, and then this is why you want to keep that loop quite loose when you first start, because we're going to put the ends through there. So I'm just going to take my grey strand, pop it through the gap, keep it crossed over as well because that'll create the nice heart shape. Take my other grey strand, pop it through the gap. Now if you find it's a bit tight, you might need your pliers here, or if you have a paracord thread, feel free to use it. Mine was quite loose, so I'm able to just squeeze it through. There we go. Okay, now that I've popped those strands through, I'm then going to finish it off. So I'm going to do my grey strands first, and we aim to get as many strands through that gap as possible. So I'm going to get my grey and my blue strands through. I'm not super fussed about my pink because that's further away. So if I just cut and singe those there, you're not going to see it. It's also not going to unravel, but my grey strands need to go through here, and so do my blue strands. So I'm just going to use my pliers and one by one take them through this loop at the back. And then I'm going to do the same with my blue strands, and once I've done that I'm going to try and flatten them out so it's not too bulky, because the last thing you want after you've done all of this work is to have a really bulky end of your collar. So I'm going to do my blue strands. Like I said, my pink strand, because it's furthest away from the edge, from the buckle, sorry, I'm not too fussed about that going through the loop, but my grey and my blue strands are the closest to the buckle, so we're going to aim for those. Now I'm just going to flatten those out like I said before I cut and singe. And this is where I kind of noticed mistake 3. There is space to push your braids up to then fit in more. You can leave it loose, it's not going to affect your collar really, but I like it to be quite tough. So I would recommend pushing your braids up and getting as many braids as possible before you go into the finish stages. And as you can see, I have plenty of cord to do so. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to snip the ends of my cords, and then I'm going to take my lighter and just burn those down and singe them. Now, I did cut these too long, so what I did off camera was I cut them down a bit shorter and then singed them again. Just makes life a little bit easier, but you want to make sure that it sticks to the paracord, because otherwise it can unravel quite easily. So I'm pressing it down here into my loop, because once that melted fabric's adhered, it's not going anywhere. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing with my pink strands. My lighter died, so I grabbed every lighter I could find. You might actually see here the space that was left. I could easily fit more braids in, and I should have. It would have made it a better collar, but you know, it's just for Poirot. He doesn't mind. He's not going to run away if it comes apart. And there we have it. One 3-coloured snake belly collar, and you can see my face in the buckles so much throughout this video. That is about as close as a face reveal you're going to get. But I actually really enjoy making this braid, and I have made it before, and for some reason just keep making those mistakes. Don't know why. But this was a request, so if you have any requests for braids, please let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, have a great day.